Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of shorter-term technical analysis to build into a longer-term topic on bull markets, because as you guys know, Bitcoin over the last couple of days has been looking rather bullish and has been moving to the upside, and there have been some people speculating that if Bitcoin can break bullish here and start moving to the upside, that this might actually be the beginning of a bull market, and that is not something I just want to kind of blow off, because this is actually a potential scenario that could play out. In today's video, we're going to be discussing whether or not Bitcoin could rally and move into a bull market here based on technical analysis and fundamental analysis, and we're going to zoom out and try and look at the chart from a couple of different perspectives and get to the bottom of whether or not a Bitcoin bull market is actually going to be starting in the next couple of months, maybe even in the next couple of weeks, according to some people that I've seen talking about this topic on the YouTubes and on the internet. Anyway, guys, I'm very much looking forward to what we have to talk about in today's video. Like I said, we have some short-term TA, some long-term TA, we have some fundamentals and some news to look at. We have a lot of things that we want to discuss in today's video, because I think that the bear market is over. I believe it's been over since around mid-November, and I think that we've been in an accumulation phase for quite some time, and based on that accumulation phase, I still think we're going to be moving into a bull market sometime in this year, so it's not totally unlikely. So that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing that notification bell, all for my sore throat, so that I can please get through this video. But anyway, guys, without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with our short-term technical analysis here. I'm not going to do a whole lot because I want to wait and see what Bitcoin does here before we continue discussing this. I talked about in yesterday's video my two positions on this, my bullish scenario for Bitcoin here and my bearish scenario for Bitcoin here, whether or not Bitcoin moves to the upside or moves to the downside. But I want to talk a little bit about the upside scenario and what that might mean for Bitcoin if Bitcoin does start breaking these resistance levels around $4,100 all the way up to around $4,500. You guys know I have a level of resistance up there, and we kind of have a zone of resistance in that first part of $4,000 zone right there. If Bitcoin breaks bullish here, and by break bullish, I mean it gets above $4,100, which is not very high above, is not very far above us. Of course, that level is a little bit higher on Bitfinex, but on Coinbase and many of the other charts that are similar, if Bitcoin gets above that level of resistance and start moving to the upside, that's going to be very bullish for Bitcoin. And the reason is that that is really the level of resistance where everything kind of just falls into place. Bitcoin has a lot of different touches on this level of resistance right around here. Bitcoin has this downtrending resistance level right here. Bitcoin has, of course, the daily 20 moving average that we have been looking at quite a bit. And as we can see, if we go ahead and turn it on here, excuse me, not the daily moving average, the weekly moving average. If we look at the 20 weekly moving average right here, Bitcoin is steadily starting to get away from it. It looks like we've already broken it. Now, there is a decent chance that we come back below it, but the fact of the matter is that if Bitcoin moves even just a little bit further more to the upside, there's a good chance that Bitcoin's going to turn bullish and turn very bullish. And maybe in the last couple of weeks, how I've been talking about Bitcoin hasn't been moving very quickly, maybe instead of looking at that as a sign of bearish weakness, maybe we should look at that as a sign of the bears conserving their strength for a continued rally above $4,000. Perhaps that's another way that you could look at that, and perhaps that's what's going to happen. Now, with all that said, is Bitcoin going to move to the upside? Is Bitcoin going to break bullish here? And is Bitcoin going to kick off a bull market? Well, guys, this is one of those things where there's a good chance that both things can happen here. There's a very good technical argument, in my opinion, that Bitcoin falls over and starts moving further down towards the downside. I've discussed that at length, so I'm not going to go into all of it in today's video, but suffice it to say that there is a very strong technical bearish argument for Bitcoin at the moment that we need to keep in mind. I'm all for a bull market. I want to see Bitcoin go to the upside just as much as anyone. I am a bullish person, don't get me wrong. But we have to follow the technicals, we have to follow the fundamentals, we have to follow the analysis so that we're not blindsided and something happens that we weren't expecting, and then we get screwed because we were following what we want to happen rather than what was actually always going to happen based on the technicals. So that's why I make it very clear that there is a bearish scenario here, and you want to be careful for it. You want to be watching out for it, and you want to be prepared for it. Now, there's a very simple way that you can do that. What you can do is you can trade this market as if it were going to bounce bullish or break bullish, and then have a stop loss right down there. You can do that and then just buy and hold. That's one of the scenarios that you can do. I'm doing a little bit of that right now, so you guys can decide if that's something that you want to do. But always be prepared for the bearish scenario. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the bullish scenario, because I know we all love talking about the bullish case for Bitcoin. We do have some bullish news over here to discuss later on in the video as well, and we have some longer term TA as well. Well, let's go ahead and say, let's get into alternate futures here and say that Bitcoin breaks $4,100. By whatever force, Bitcoin breaks $4,100 and starts moving to the upside here. What does that mean for Bitcoin? Well, if Bitcoin does break $4,100 and starts moving to the upside, of course, we have this zone of resistance that's going to have to trudge through. But if Bitcoin finds the strength to break through $4,100 and many of these other levels of resistances, a few of them that I haven't even shown you, if Bitcoin manages to break through those and starts moving to the upside, it's probably going to continue moving to the upside. I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of these technicals are starting to turn bullish. For example, the daily MACD just turned bullish a couple days ago. Actually, I believe it was yesterday. It was the day before yesterday, here on the 28th of March. Bitcoin's daily MACD is bullish. That's a very important technical indicator. The daily MACD. I don't want to have that be overshadowed. That's a very important technical indicator, and there's many others that are important as well. Like out on the weekly chart, the MACD has been bullish for quite some time and is always becoming more bullish. Look at that trend line on the histogram. That is ridiculously bullish for the weekly MACD to do that. We've never seen the weekly MACD do something like that, at least not in a very long time. Last time we saw a trend like that on the weekly MACD was in the run up to $20,000, and that was at the climax of a bull market, not the climax of a bear market, guys. This is a very strong case right now, the weekly MACD. But of course, we also have to keep in mind the weekly stochastic RSI. This could throw a wrench in the plans and have us move to the downside. But we've discussed all of that before. So let's say Bitcoin starts moving to the upside, breaks up to $4,500 and starts going. Is that the start of a bull market? Well, let's go ahead and analyze some more things based on the previous bull market and the previous bear market back in 2014 and 2015. You guys know I like comparing 2014 and 15 to this bear market because it tends to be that the technicals back then are a very good predictor of the technicals right now. And one of them that I want to show you has to do with the 20 exponential and the 20 simple moving average. The 20 exponential moving average is actually one of my favorite technical indicators in all of technical analysis. There's actually an entire video in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy on this one moving average because it is so powerful, and that's a very good video. If you guys are interested in joining the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, by the way, and learning how to do all this technical analysis, everything I discuss in my videos I teach in the course in quite a bit of detail. You can check the link in the description. But one of those videos is on the 20 exponential moving average, and for very good reason. It's a very powerful technical indicator. As you can see here, in the duration of the 2016-17 bull market, Bitcoin never once went below this 20 exponential moving average. Not, of course, until the bear market started did Bitcoin do that. It fell below it here in January of 2018, and it's been basically below the 20 EMA ever since. Well, as you can see, we're coming up very close to it. And if we look back at 2015, what we'll see is that Bitcoin came up to it and tested it as resistance right here. I believe that there's a decent chance that we're somewhere right here in the accumulation phase rather than right over here, but we'll see what happens with that. Bitcoin came up and tested it, came over, broke through it, and then we actually broke through it. Bitcoin was able to get through that level of resistance. If Bitcoin is able to get through the 20 exponential moving average and stay above it for a couple of months, that's going to be a very good sign for Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin goes ahead and breaks $4,100, it is going to almost inevitably break that 20 exponential moving average. It's going to come up here and break it. And don't forget, by the way, that we've already broken the 20 simple moving average. That moving average is a 20, but it's also a little bit different. As we can look here, if we go back here with Sweden's colors, then we see that Bitcoin broke this 20 simple moving average just before it broke the 20 exponential moving average, but it broke both of them at the same time. There's a decent chance that that happens now as well, that Bitcoin has some bullish momentum from breaking that and from breaking other levels of resistance if we move to the upside, that we break the 20 EMA. There are a lot of different technicals that I can look at. One of them, of course, would have been the 20 EMAs. Another one, of course, would have been the weekly MACD. We have a lot of different technicals that we can look at, and a lot of them are looking rather bullish, guys. There's a lot of different technicals from 2014 and 2015 that if you overlay them on the current market, they look almost exactly identical. Another one of them, of course, would have been the ratio of how far Bitcoin fell down to $180, and then it fell 45% below 3,000 right there. Yada, yada, yada. I have an entire video on the channel from a month or two ago or so. If I can find that, I will link that in the top right, where I talk about all the similarities between the 2015 market and the 2019 market, because there are a lot of them. Bitcoin is almost exactly repeating history. It's ridiculous, guys, how many similarities there are. I can't get into them in today's video, but my point is that Bitcoin played out a certain type of market structure back here in 2015 that kicked off a bull market. And we can use that same market structure based on how predictive this market has been for our current one we can use that market structure predictively to determine and assess when Bitcoin moves into a bull market. And I can tell you exactly down to the day when Bitcoin entered a bull market in 2015 based on these technicals. It happened right over here in this candlestick. I'll show you the daily candlesticks as well in a second. Right over here, right around the 12th to the 15th of October. Let's go ahead into the daily chart, and you actually have some more technicals that can show you. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've looked at this, but I believe it's the 200 moving average that actually gives us this signal. Let's go ahead and turn these off. This 200 moving average we've been below for quite some time, as you can see. This is another technical that I've been looking at. But if we go back here into 2015, then we're going to find that Bitcoin got above that 200 simple moving average right here, right around the 7th of October or so. Right in this territory, and also it got above something else. It got above the 20 daily simple moving average. Bitcoin got above a lot of different moving averages here, and you can actually use some of these moving averages and how Bitcoin interacted with them to define when this Bitcoin bull market started. Because as you'll see, when Bitcoin got above this moving average right here, this one right here, that being the 200 daily moving average, when Bitcoin did that, nary a time did Bitcoin go back below it until the bear market started in 2018. And if Bitcoin gets above that 200 moving average again, and it gets above that 20 weekly moving average again, those are going to be telltale signs of the coming of a bull market. So there's a very good chance that that does happen in the next couple of weeks. It's kind of strange that that would happen this early, because we would expect, based on 2015, that the accumulation phase would drag on a little bit longer. But guys, you also have to realize Bitcoin is a different market now than it was back over here in 2014 and 15. And there are differences still in these markets, even though they're so similar. It wouldn't necessarily be completely out of the blue and completely unprecedented if Bitcoin did enter a bull market a little bit earlier than we would expect it to, based on that market back there. Let's go ahead and turn these on and get onto some news, and then we'll come back in and wrap up with technical analysis to try and determine whether or not Bitcoin's about to enter a bull market, because this is an important topic, and it is one that definitely does have a good argument to it and does have merit. Let's continue talking about some news and fundamentals here, because fundamentals are also very important to our analysis of Bitcoin. These are just a couple of news articles that have come out in the last couple of days that I want to use to build the context for what we're discussing here. Bitcoin news, Bitcoin turnaround, top financial advisors embrace cryptocurrencies. This is a really nice article to read, because I like seeing people that aren't even necessarily in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and that aren't even necessarily affiliated with the blockchain industry. I like seeing them warm up to Bitcoin and become more accepting of Bitcoin and more bullish on Bitcoin. More than 155 of the U.S. top financial advisors took place in the blockchain and crypto asset pre-event that drastically changed their views of Bitcoin. After a 5-hour educational program, only 10% of them still think that Bitcoin is speculation. How many times have you guys heard someone say, Bitcoin is not investing, Bitcoin is speculation. Bitcoin is not investing, Bitcoin is gambling. Whatever they say, people will write off Bitcoin as some kind of Ponzi scheme, which, by the way, if someone calls Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, they have never looked up the definition of a Ponzi scheme before and have no idea what they're talking about. But if someone calls Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme or a scam or gambling, maybe it is gambling if you don't know what you're doing, but if they call it something like that, they probably are simply uninformed, or they're misinformed. That doesn't mean they're maliciously saying that, but that does probably mean that they're uninformed. And these uninformed people can actually tell us a lot about the sentiment of Bitcoin in the outside world, because, of course, we're kind of in our own little bubble here. We hear what's happening in the Bitcoin space, but you have to realize most people don't have any idea what's going on in cryptocurrency. So that kind of general public mentality is very important to Bitcoin, actually, because it paves the way for Bitcoin adoption when people that aren't in the cryptocurrency space are bullish on cryptocurrency anyway, which is why people were so happy about Bitcoin being in the media in 2017. But I'm on a little bit of a tangent, so let's continue. I'm going to skip forward and go right ahead to where they did a survey to these people. They did a survey on these 155 people, and they found that 89% of all participants claimed that they had a more favorable view of cryptocurrencies and didn't consider Bitcoin speculation anymore. And these are top financial advisors. These are not just some dude you took off the street who's like wearing one shoe and one boot and has his shirt on backwards. We're talking about people that know what they're talking about and that people listen to and respect. These are top financial advisors. They're not just no ones. It's very good to have these people on our side. It's very good to have people in Wall Street on our side. It's very good to have people in Forex on our side and all over the traditional finance markets. You want to have the rest of the world on our side. You don't want Bitcoin having to fight through all these people because they don't believe in Bitcoin. You want people to believe in Bitcoin, and I very much like to see this, because this kind of thing is happening more and more all the time. We're seeing more and more people, companies, traders in the stock market moving over to Bitcoin. We continue to see that the population of markets, they tend to be moving more towards being favorable towards Bitcoin, or at least more accepting and open towards Bitcoin. And that's a very important step on the path to mass adoption for Bitcoin, and the path to Bitcoin becoming bigger on Wall Street and bigger with ETFs and futures contracts and everything. And say what you will about those things, but those being implemented are going to be one of the stepping stones on the path to mass adoption for Bitcoin. And speaking of that, we have to talk about the SEC, because yesterday the SEC decided to go ahead and postpone their decisions on some Bitcoin ETFs that you guys may have heard of, one of them being the Van Eck Bitcoin ETF. This is a very important Bitcoin ETF that I've been discussing since the news broke, like almost 8-10 months ago. When did Van Eck break? I don't even remember. I think it was in July of 2018. This news story has been going on forever and is probably never going to end, but we'll continue talking about it because it is very important. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission has delayed making a decision on 2 Bitcoin ETF fund proposals earlier this year. ETF fund, exchange traded fund proposals this year, ATM machine. Anyway, the first ETF proposal filed by Bitwise Asset Management with NYSE ARCA was published in the Federal Register on February 15th, kicking off the 45-day clock for an initial decision on the filing. Overall, the SEC has 240 days to approve or reject any ETF proposal. And this is the main reason why I'm discussing this, because, of course, these Bitcoin ETFs did get delayed. Why would I consider that a bullish thing? Well, the reason it's not really a bullish thing, but the reason I'm talking about this is because these Bitcoin ETFs, some of them are not going to get accepted. Many of them are not going to get accepted, but eventually one of them is going to get accepted. And that's not just me speaking. I believe Van Eck himself actually said that. I have a quote somewhere in a video of him saying that he believes that eventually one of them is going to get accepted, because one of them is just going to tick all the right boxes. The SEC is going to like it enough. Eventually, guys, a Bitcoin ETF is going to get accepted. After they've been proposed to the Federal Register, they can be delayed up to 3 times, and they have to be approved within 240 days. The SEC can delay within that time period, which is what they've done. But these Bitcoin ETFs are eventually going to get a yes or a no ruling, and eventually one of them is going to get a yes. And I believe that the Van Eck and SolidX Bitcoin ETF, as we've talked about so much here on the channel, we haven't talked about it much because it hasn't been in the news, but as we've talked about so much, filed nearly a year ago, it's going to get accepted, in my humble opinion. I think the SEC is going to accept it, and when it does, that's going to be a very bullish thing for Bitcoin, guys. The main reason I'm talking about these news articles along with the Bitcoin technical analysis here in today's video is because I want to lay the foundation for the fundamental side of Bitcoin and for the technical side of Bitcoin, because there's a very strong argument for the long-term bullishness of Bitcoin. I do believe Bitcoin will probably be back above $20,000 within the next 18 to 24 months. That's a bold prediction, but I think it's going to come to pass. And I do believe that the fundamentals for Bitcoin and the news space for Bitcoin and the adoption space for Bitcoin are looking better than ever, and are going to continue to look better as Bitcoin's price continues to move to the right and continues to move to the upside. So with all of that fundamental news out of the way and some of that long-term technical analysis out of the way, is Bitcoin about to start a bull market? Is Bitcoin about to enter a bull market and start moving to the upside again? And if so, what would that look like? Well, guys, I want to make very clear with you that I have always said that I think that Bitcoin is going to start a bull market before the end of the year, or at the very latest before the end of Q1 2020. I've always said that. I've made videos claiming that I think Bitcoin's coming, a bull market's coming in the next 12 months, which I do think is happening. I think all of that's going to happen. But there's one crucial thing that we have to keep in mind, and that is that this accumulation phase so far is about 4 months old. The accumulation phase in 2015 was about closer to 10 months long. We've had a 4-month accumulation phase. This was a 10-month accumulation phase. Pretty much every single aspect of this bear market and accumulation phase cycle over here has repeated almost perfectly over here. And I'm not going to go into it in today's video, but this bear market is moving about 20% quicker than this bear market did. So let's say this is a 10-month accumulation phase. This one should be an 8-month accumulation phase. It wouldn't make a ton of sense from our technical analysis to say that Bitcoin is just out of the woods yet. I don't personally think that a Bitcoin bull market is going to be starting in the next month or two. But I would not be at all surprised if Bitcoin started a bull market this summer, based on the technicals that we've been looking at and based on the evergreen news and fundamental space that we've been discussing here on the channel. I think there's a very strong case to be made for that. Now, in the meantime, people have been talking about like Elliott Wave 4 theories with Wave 4 Elliott correction theories with Bitcoin moving to the upside, then having a Wave 5 crash, and then that being the end of the bear market or the end of the accumulation phase even. There's been a lot of talk about stuff like that. I'm not getting into that in today's video. You guys know I don't do a whole lot of Elliott Wave stuff. But there is a decent argument to be made here that Bitcoin could be moving to the upside. There is a decent argument to be made here that Bitcoin could be breaking bullish and moving up to around $4,500 or so based on the technicals that we've looked at and based on the evergreen fundamentals and the news space that we've been looking at. There is a good argument for that. Tell me in the comment section down below what you think is going to happen, guys, because I'm interested to find out. I think that there's a pretty decent chance that Bitcoin moves to the upside here, and honestly, I think the safest bet right now is to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. That's normally what you want to do in markets, but that's just because you normally do it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it here. Cliches are sometimes true. General advice normally does work. And I think the best bet right now is to prepare for the worst, Bitcoin falling down here and respecting some of those bearish technicals, but also be ready to have buy orders up here and catch rallies, because if Bitcoin starts moving to the upside quickly, we start getting some of that bullish volume coming back in. We have a little bit of it coming in right now, but when we start seeing those gigantic big green volume candlesticks, then there is money to be made here if Bitcoin starts moving to the upside. But is Bitcoin about to start a bull market and about to enter a bull market? I don't think so. I don't think Bitcoin is just about to do it. That said, guys, I've been surprised in the past. I've been wrong before. Everybody has, and sometimes it happens. I don't think Bitcoin is starting a bull market in the next 2 or 3 weeks, in the next 2 or 3 days especially, but time will tell on that. If it follows through, if Bitcoin does manage to follow through and act on some of these technicals I've talked about, like the 20 exponential moving average, we'll be forced to reconsider that position. If Bitcoin starts breaking this, I will definitely be updating this video. But we're going to have to see what happens with that, guys. We can't predict into the future with 100% accuracy, of course, and the video is already 21 minutes long. So I am going to go ahead and wrap it up, but tell me in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? Do you think Bitcoin's actually about to start a bull market and start moving to the upside? Because I've seen a lot of people discussing the potential for that, and not for bad reason, by the way. I think there is a decent argument to be made that that happens. I just don't think it's the most convincing right now. I think we're getting a little overzealous. A bull market is coming. We can all see it on the horizon. I've been able to see it on the horizon for a long time. You guys have been calling me a permabull for a year, but it's not that I'm a permabull. It's that I can see the forest through the trees, and I can see that bull market on the horizon. I'm just a little bit taller than you guys, and I can see over the horizon. And I can see that it's coming. I've known that it's been coming ever since we fell off of a cliff over here in 2017. I've always known this coming. You can go back and watch videos I've done. I've been saying that a bull market's been coming for a year now, and people have been calling me a permabull and making fun of me. But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care. I'm just looking forward to the bull market because I do know it's coming. And you guys, I think, do also. So tell me in the comment section down below, even if you don't know when if you do know that it's coming, when do you think it's coming? When do you guys think that the bull market will start? What kind of confirmations do you look for to see a bull market start? This 20 weekly moving average has never let me down. That's the one I'm going to be looking at, as well as the 200 daily and a couple of others that I've discussed in previous videos. Tell me in the comment section down below what you think about this, guys. Let's get an actual conversation going down below. I do enjoy talking to you guys, especially in the CryptoJeb Discord server. If you haven't already joined that, there's a link down below. What are you doing? Come on and join our community. Also, if you haven't joined our community, you can think about joining the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. There's a link to that in the description down below, where I go over everything in a lot of detail about how I do my technical analysis, what steps I take to analyze the market, what methods I use, what tools I use, what technical indicators I use, how I couple those technical indicators together to get different types of signals, and how I look at the market, look at market structure, the strength of the bulls and the bears. It's a great course. I'm very proud of it, and I'm very happy with it. And the 100 and some, I mean, not 100, actually, well over 200 by now. The crazy number of people that have gone through the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, they all seem to really enjoy it. I've never had a single person have a refund, because even though there's a very fair refund policy, everybody seems to be very happy with it. That's what they've told me anyway. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.